Chapter 30. I'm MissKay.
And I'm QueenTee.
This is a place for those women
and men
who feel that they have no one to talk to.
We're here. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hey, streets.
Hey, streets.
Oh, my God. It's QueenTee.
And MissKay.
I know it's been a while since you heard from us, streets, but just listen. We can
explain.
We can explain. We are so sorry that we kept you waiting so long. But, life happens, and we're going to talk about that in this episode.
Yep, and absence makes the heart grow fonder, right?
Oh, absolutely. I cannot tell you how many people, and actually it was just surprising to me how many people were hitting us up, like DMing us or emailing or in person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when is this next episode coming? What's going on? Where are you guys? And I'm just like, what? You guys are looking for us?
The streets be watching and waiting.
Yes, absolutely. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. But we here, streets. We here. Let's give them a little update. Like, what have you been up to since the last time we recorded?
Oh my gosh. So can we tell them that the last time we recorded was actually in May?
Yeah.
Okay. So streets. The last time we recorded was in May. The last time we put out an episode was in June, and right now it's July. I mean, granted, we just started in April, but y'all know, we've been consistent. We've been coming out with new material, like every week?
Yep.
So, and we're both like perfectionists, and we're both like, describe us, T. Like, how can I explain like how we are in the terms of like wanting to put out content and just wanting to be consistent? What would you call that?
I would just call it being creative. Like, we're super creative.
Mm-hmm.
We are perfectionists. So, and this is our art.
Yeah.
So, we just want it, when it comes to you guys, when you guys are listening to it, we want to make sure that we are giving you the absolute best from both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that takes time. And sometimes we always talk about this. You can't force stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and we're not going to give you anything that's forced. We're going to give you something that's straight from our hearts and straight from our minds. And sorry that it took us a little long to get that creative juices flowing, but and it wasn't all, life happens, but we did good things. Like, we both went on vacation.
Yes.
So Corinne, MissKay, went to New Orleans. How was that?
Okay, so guys, it's my first time there. I've always wanted to go, so it felt amazing to cross it off my list. But I went for a week, and like, best time ever. Like, if there's a lot of people that have always told me like, you gotta go, and like, now I see what they mean. Like, that place is amazing. The culture, the food, the sights, it's just beautiful. Like, that place is amazing. So if you're thinking about going, just go. It's awesome. But I had a great time, Miss Tanisha. I just had fun. It was good to turn off and just emerge into like, style, just have a good time. So I had an amazing time. And
I was watching all of your stories, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, can we just talk about the food? Because I saw them stories. I was like,
girl,
oh, it looks so good.
Girl. Look, I was about to be like, and you, how was your trip? Like, I already stopped talking about mine, but okay, I'll talk about the food. The food, y'all, the food, like, not like, oh my God, just go and try out everything. Like, everything is amazing. Like, po' boys, what else? Oh my gosh, I can't think. Gumbo, like, just everything. Like, their food is amazing. Like, it just screams, like, it's just so rich and it's just so delicious. There's just something everywhere. There's something for everybody. It's so bright and it's just like loud, and it's just like, I don't know, like, it was amazing. Like, I had such a good time. Normally I like to go to like an island or a beach or just somewhere and just relax, but no, that was popping. Like, I needed to do that. That was so much fun. I love it, and I would go back now. Like, I would go back again.
Wow.
And me, I'm normally a one and done. Like, I go somewhere and I'm like, all right, next, because the world is so big and I want to go to so many places. So I try to do something different, but now I will go there again soon.
I'm happy that you got to experience that.
Thank you, babes.
Of course. I felt like I was living vicariously through you.
I was posting like crazy. My other friend was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for posting." I'm like, I be posting for myself just so it can save, and like I have my little, you know how you can look back on a year ago and see you
Yep.
doing
Your memories.
exactly. So a lot of times
Yep.
I post just for me to have it saved there and not my phone. But a lot of people were looking because I got to go to a plantation, the Whitney plantation, um, just a lot of different historical places. So if you are following me, I'm Miss K Grace on Instagram. You
Yes,
saw
plus.
everything. But it was amazing. So Miss Queen T, where was you? Where was you?
Well, I just went home, nothing too fancy.
Mm-hmm.
But as you guys all know, I live in Georgia, or as you should know, I live in Georgia. But I'm from New York, and every year I take a trip back home, just to see all of my friends and all of my family, and kind of it helps me to just recenter,
Mm-hmm.
when I go back home. So I went for, actually got extended. I think I was supposed to be there for 5 days and I ended up there for 6.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so every day was just different. Literally, I would hop out of one friend's car and then jump into another friend's car. Like I need to see everybody when I'm up there. And
Mm-hmm.
there's still so many people that I didn't get to see, but I spent most of my time actually in Connecticut. Um, just eating,
Yes.
eating, spending time with my friends. Miss K and I actually got up and we went live on Insta, and I'm sorry if you didn't get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And on Facebook, follow us at QueenTee K
Hey.
on Facebook, and you'll be able to go see that live that we did. And it was just so much fun. It was something that I really, really needed. And I will tell you guys this. Um, one of the reasons why on my end that we didn't record is because I think it was, yeah, on Memorial Day, one of my friends actually got hit by a car and I was there to witness it. So when we say life happens, like
Mm.
life really happens. It did take a little while for me to just kind of be okay with recording again. And that's okay. That's something that we do talk about in a few other episodes. Like if you have to take time for yourself just to make sure that you're okay, or if you have other obligations to tend to or whatever, like that's okay. And that doesn't mean that chapter 30 was put on the back burner. Like chapter 30 is a shared baby. It's always going to be there. But you just have to make sure that you're okay first before, because if you're not, how can you help others?
Mm.
So you just got to make sure that you're 100. And now I feel like I'm at 100, and all of 90% of my energy is going back into chapter 30. So we gonna get it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Wow. That was really brave of you to share that experience with the streets. Like that's real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so crazy because I'm not going to go into details about the whole situation, but you just never know. Life happens so quickly. And, 1 minute you could just be having fun. And then next minute, it's just the complete opposite. You know what I mean? You just never know. So, that actually kind of brings us into what we're going to be talking about today, which is expectations.
Yes. One of our favorite topics. But girl, before we get into that topic, can I just
Oh,
go back
yeah.
to your vacation real quick?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
I love when you come up and you visit because your love language, it just screams your whole vacation, quality time. Shout out
Oh,
to our previous episode. Was that episode 7?
yes, it
The
was.
love
Love
languages.
languages.
Go check it out. The streets love it. um
They did.
but like you come up here and like it's just like in an organic way. You just hang out with everyone that you love and care about and you spend quality time. Like you actually spend like I don't know, you just make an effort to share your time with people that you really care about and you do like different unique things with them. And I don't know, I just could see how that fills you up.
Oh,
So I always like that. When you come up here, I'm like, what you do today? What you do today? And it's just like, you was like, oh, I was with this person, like always with someone new, but meaningful to you, close to you. And like, that's what's up. Because some people, they visit their hometown and they won't see half the people they really care about, but you make that effort. So that really goes to show like, you serious about your love language, and I'm here for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome, babes.
Okay, so just to specify, my love language is quality time. And like MissKay said, like it means a lot to me. So thank you to the people, if you are listening, that did take the time out to spend time with me, because it does mean a lot to me. And thank you for noticing, Rain. And thank you for being one of those people.
Girl, you're welcome. When you come up, I'll be like, I got a CT. I got a CT. I'm like, this was even before I knew your love language, because obviously I knew you for years, but I just found out your love language this year. Actually, I just found out your love language in May. We did love languages, but like, you know, you even though you may not know the exact name of someone's love language, like, you know, and every time you're up here, I'm like, I gotta see her. Like, I don't care if I'm coming off work, coming off the plane, like I did this time, like I'm gonna see you.
That means so. My heart is so happy.
Aw, team. But back to this topic, expectations, guys. Yo, we live for this topic.
Absolutely. Okay, this is, I don't know if it's from the podcast or we're just like, I don't know if we're this way because of the podcast, or if it's the opposite, but just like lately we've been hashtagging our own our own titles, like the stuff that we're talking about in our conversation, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, so you know what, I'm just going to jump into it. I was going to save this for later, but I'm going to jump into it just so they know exactly what we're talking about. So this was yesterday, actually. I think it was yesterday. I had a crazy day at work. Like, my day was just not going how I expected it to go. Like, I just came in with a whole plan. I'm like, okay, by this time, this is going to get done. I'm going to have this done by this time. And then I'll be able to work on this. And then I have this much time to do this. You know, like, I just had the whole day planned out. And it did not happen that way at all. And I couldn't finish a task. Like, once I started something, I got called to do this, or I had to go talk to a vendor, or I had to take this down and put this up. Like, and it was stuff that just like, it kept going one by one by one, like just after each other. And I started feeling anxiety, because me and Corinne talked about this yesterday. I hate leaving stuff unfinished. Like, I need to finish one thing, or I need to know in my mind that if I leave this right here, I'm going to be able to come back to it. You know what I mean? So when there's just so many things that are just like unfinished, it just drives me crazy. But at the end of the day, everything came together. Everything was fine. And mind you, I'm going crazy at 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, I work 7 to 3:30 normally. So it's like, it had only been 3 hours, and I'm just like, oh my God, nothing's gonna get done. You know, like, just built this whole catastrophe in my mind. But by 3:30, I walked out the door and everything was done. So I said all this to say, when I was telling MissKay about my day, I said hashtag expectations. And we just both know what that means. Like, and this brings us back to episode 2, self-awareness, that at least we're mindful of it. You know what I mean? Like, and it also, how do I say this? It helps us to take responsibility for the things that go on in our lives. You know what I mean? Because I could have just complained about all that stuff and been like, oh, well, the vendor could have came another day, or blah, 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 blah. But really, no, that was just me. That was me coming into work with my own expectations and me getting let down because I had those expectations.
Exactly. That was a great example. And to kind of go off what you were saying, how we bring up like the previous topics or podcasts that we have, like, we've noticed that, like, without even trying, like, it's like the podcast of the month or the week, it's like the theme. But it kind of just comes back, like, we'll be like, mindfulness. We'll just say that randomly, like hashtag mindfulness, because that comes from self-awareness. Or we'll say red flags. Like we'll just like kind of just say one word, and to the other we know exactly what we mean based on the podcast, based on our friendship, and just based on the long talks that we've had that have led us to the podcast. Have built a friendship. So I'm happy that you shared that with them, because that's important for them to know that like once the podcast is done and recorded, like it's not done, because we get tons of feedback. We constantly talk about it, listen to it, and also we kind of do part twos. Like every podcast has a part two that we do like via our own conversation. So that's just like crazy. But we always say expectations. Like I'll tell her something and I'm just like complaining about something, and then halfway through that I'm like, but expectations. And like like you said, it kind of just makes us mindful, and it just brings us back to the reality. Like that's our expectations. It's not always healthy to I mean, you kind of got to have expectations, I guess, but we'll get into that. But it's just healthy to be mindful enough to know that everything's not going to go how you want it.
Right, exactly. I agree. And it's just crazy, like how you were saying, how these things come up in, because it's not just us talking about these things and just leaving it there. You know what I mean? It's not like us just recording an episode and then that's it. Here you go, guys. Like, no, we are literally talking from our own experience, and we're talking about real life stuff. We're talking about reality. And I know that there's other people out there that can experience or relate to the things that we're talking about. You know what I mean? Because we go through it every single day. So just know that the things we're saying, it's not like we're just lecturing you guys or being like, okay, you know, have a seat, we're going to stand at the chalkboard. Like, no, this is stuff that we still talk about episode 1 or episode 2 to this day. And that was recorded in April. So, yeah, this is real life stuff here. All right, MissKay. So I gave the streets like a little example of what we mean by expectations, but could you like kind of give them a little bit more of what we're talking about?
Definitely. So when we say expectations, like we're just, it's big. It's a big thing, as you guys know. But like just to give you some examples of what we mean by like expectations, it can be completing tasks, or, you know, expecting a phone call to go a certain way, or expecting your life to turn out a certain way, or wanting to have, you know, kids and a husband by a certain age, or, you know, maybe your diet didn't go as planned. It's just kind of like setting yourself up for like what you want done or how you want it done. And, just that setup and maybe not getting the outcome that you want and learning what to do with it. There's expectations that we have, you know, that we expect from other people. Like sometimes we can do something, we can pour into somebody or do lots of favors for somebody. And we thought we were doing it from love, but we're kind of sitting there like, okay, like, you know, like waiting to get something back. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're doing it for the wrong reasons. But I think subconsciously, like we're just built to expect. Can you add on to that, girl?
I think there's also another aspect, which is putting expectations on other people.
That part.
All right, so I'm gonna keep it 100 on this next example of an expectation. So this normally happens with like older people, where I guess this is just like a conversation starter with a lot of people. But, you know, they'll be like, okay, you know, why aren't you married yet? Or why don't you have kids yet? And that is just something that is an expectation all around. Whereas if you're this age, you should have this, or you should be doing this, or you should have that. And not for nothing, this is why a lot of people are just unhappy with their lives, because that's just the way society is. Like, you know, they have all these expectations, and then there's other people who have met society's expectations, and because there's others who haven't, there's something wrong with them. And that is kind of like the undertone. So, you know, when they ask these questions, it's not so much just asking out of curiosity. I feel like it's more of asking because what's wrong with you, or what happened. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that that shouldn't be a concern to you. You know what I mean? Like, especially if it's somebody who is not, first of all, if you don't know, then it's probably not your business. You know what I mean? Like the people that are probably close to that person, they probably know what's going on, or whatever. It may not even be something that's that serious. Maybe they just hadn't even thought about it. You know, like everybody is not supposed to lead the same path in life. Like everybody is not supposed to go the same direction. That's exactly why we all have different personalities. We all have different mindsets. Like we all have different goals, and everybody is not supposed to walk in the same way of life as everybody else, and that's okay. So I feel like for those listening, that we all should be mindful of societal expectations and even our own expectations that we put on other people, and the questions that we ask people based off of those expectations, because you don't know what type of feeling that gives that person. You know what
Wow.
I mean? Because if you asking somebody, oh, why you don't have kids yet? And in your mind, that's just a regular question. But that person could be dealing with infertility. You know what I mean? That person may not even just, they might not want kids, but that's not up to, they don't have to explain that to you.
Tough.
I went in on that, but it's real life. Like it happens. And you don't, like, there's a lot of people out there who just laugh it off, or they may have this little spiel that they come back with, that they have rehearsed, or that they've said that to 500 other people because they get asked it all the time. But you may have just really depressed a person, or you may have really made somebody feel some type of way off of an expectation.
That part.
Okay, so besides that, we talked about jobs. I talked about that. We talked about life, I guess, or like life expectations as far as like kids and marriage and stuff like that. Do you have any other examples?
I actually have something that I wrote down that kind of went perfectly with what you just spoke about, like people like having expectations, or holding people up to societal's expectations or
Mm-hmm.
expectations. So I'll share it. It's short. It's just a little note I had for when we were discussing recording this episode. And it says, sometimes people spew out these expectations, but they're not even in tune if you're even ready mentally or emotionally for these things. The
Mm.
and any one of us is about to ask someone, when are they going to have a baby? When are you going to buy a house? When are you going back to school? Stop and ask yourself, why are you asking that person that? What is your intentions? It could be coming from a place of love, concern, or curiosity, but just realize you never know what goes on behind closed doors or someone's own thoughts. We all may be rooting for the long time couple we know to get married, but do you know if they're ready on all levels or even aspiring to marriage?
Mm.
What does it really have to do with you? No shade, but there's a way to support and want the best for those around us without inserting ourselves into spaces we don't belong.
Mm.
Into spaces we don't belong or fit.
Ooh.
So, girl,
That just gave me chills.
we gotta go back to what you were saying before
Okay.
we can go up, because you said a whole word and it fit perfectly with what I said. So I'm listening, like check, check, check.
It did.
So in tune, it's crazy. But you said a whole word, like, girl. There was this article floating around on Facebook, and it goes with this too. I wish I would have saved it, but it was saying, like, when you're asking the person, oh, when are you having another baby? Like, you don't know what's going on in her body. You don't like, and it was just going on like a whole list of things you don't ask women, and I'm gonna include men as well. There's things you don't ask men. There's just things you don't ask people. Period. Like
Right.
the senior in high school. Like, I know it's like, well, dang, like savage and sensitive culture. Like, we're so sensitive. Like, what can we talk about? Well, what can we ask people? It doesn't hurt to ask people about their future, but how about you do just that? Ask them about their future. Maybe you can ask them, like, more open ended.
Right.
Right? Would that be better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Um, like for example, you can just say, "What do you want out of life? Like, what are your goals?" Like, it doesn't have to be so specific, or like putting in your expectations in there, because if and it's a different way to ask. Like, you don't have to say, "Why don't you have this? Why don't you know?" That's like saying that that's what I want, or something is wrong with me because I don't have those things. You don't even know if that's what I want. So how about first asking the person, you know, what they want in life or what their goals are, whatever. And if it's something that is sensitive to that person, then in that case, you know, they should be able to tell you that.
Right.
But you just going straight to the topics that you don't know are sensitive or not,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like it's kind of rude and disrespectful to some people.
Right.
And I also feel like we just ask each other the wrong questions in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say a family member that you haven't seen in, I don't know, 10 years. Oh, what do you do for work? Or what's going on with school?
Mm-hmm.
What school did you go to? Do you have a house? Do you have a car?
Like trigger.
Nobody asks you how you're feeling. Like, nobody asks, are you okay? Like, mentally, how are you feeling? How are you?
Mm-hmm.
What are you feeling today? What did you feel yesterday? What are you feeling tomorrow? Like, and I feel like that's the things that matter. Like, there's people with houses and cars and pools and all this type of stuff, and they're still unhappy. There's people out there committing suicide that have the world at their fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like we just be focused on the wrong things. What do you think?
First of all, I love that you said we, because we're not saying, like you said before, we're not saying anything in these podcasts to say like we're on this high horse and we're looking down at the world.
Absolutely.
Shame on you, world. Like, no. We're all humans. This is all human nature. Like, everything we talk about is stuff that is built in us. So there's probably, plenty of people that could say that I, or, maybe Queen T have asked them something that maybe rubbed them the wrong way. Why? Because they're human.
Yeah.
I've looked at the longtime couple and said even if it's to myself, I'm kind of sensitive, but I know I've asked people a question that hurt them, but I know if I didn't ask them out loud, I know I said it in my head, like, when are they gonna have a baby?
Right.
Like, I know I think it, and I know I've had to ask somebody that, because that's just what we do when you go to what school you like, that, like you said, all those things that you said, but we don't, like you said, like, people do say like, how are you? But we always, I'm fine. But like, no, you can genuinely say like, how are you? How have you been? Like, really care to hear.
Right.
Like, I'm okay. I'm like, then maybe if you have that open-ended question, like, how are you, Timmy? How are you, Sharon? Like, I'm all right. I'm struggling with school, my financial aid. Then you'll see, oh, good thing I didn't say,
right,
you finished school yet? Because you like, like, you'll see, like, if they're comfortable enough to go there, they'll be like, you know what, like, I actually quit school because I had to work, because like, it's just certain things. And I know in this society we handle each other with like kind of like kid gloves, if that's what you call it, or like just real sensitive, but it's like that.
Mm-hmm.
At least just be a little conscious, like no one's perfect. You're gonna ask somebody something that makes them sad, like, but just like think of your intentions. Like, why are you asking them that?
Right, exactly. Like, if you put it more on yourself and not the other person, as far as your intentions, then I think it'll make the conversation more smoothly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because if you're so focused on the answer to the question and not so much why you're asking the question, then you don't even know the response you might get from a certain person. There could be somebody who just lashes out on you because you asked the wrong question. And that's not saying that you can't go out and just, like, ask people questions or whatever, or have to walk on eggshells.
Right.
But just think first. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Just think. We all have to do that. Just like think first and be like, okay, is this okay? And then shoot your shot.
Facts. And stop expecting like answers, and stop expecting like people to just like I'm legit thinking about people that just walked up to me and just instantly asked me a bunch of personal questions, like, who are you? Like, they're like, the way they walked up with, like, I'm picturing like a over dramatized version in my head, but their chest is poked out, like they just like they own the world and they own my answer. I can't explain how I'm
entitled. They're entitled.
It's entitled, that part.
Yeah.
Like, stop being so entitled. Well, what you been up to? Well, where you work? You still live over there? You doing this? Well, when is this gonna happen? What?
Who are you?
So,
who? I can't.
And can I get real for a second?
Please.
Okay. For so long, things like this like would really bother me, because like not like okay, not only are we being held up to society standards, our family standards, like you know, everyone's standards, like there's our own like standards that we have, our own hidden desires, like our own things that we have. And like I would like when people would come up to me with those with that entitlement, like I would shrink and I would trigger because it's just a lot. Like to know, especially when you know, based on the event that you go into, that you're about to be questioned down. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still working on learning how to process that because it's a lot. Like when, like, you can be sure of yourself, but if there's a part of you that is just not comfortable with that, it can be a lot when people are always questioning you. It took some very special people who I'm really close to in my life to tell me, like, Karen, you don't have to answer to anybody. No one takes care of you. And I had to really get that in my head, like, and I'm still like, you know, I'm probably like at 80% to where I'm like, I don't know, I'm not shrinking with it, but I still don't like it. I find it very rude, just like the entitlement. I don't like entitled people, like,
Right. Yeah.
because I can ask a question. Again, I'm not saying I've never asked a rude question before or never asked an insensitive question or delivered it in a way that sounded that way. But I'm saying, like, I don't know, like me right now, like, let's say I saw somebody I haven't seen in a while, like, I I really do want to know how they are. Like, I don't
Right.
care about like the success story because behind that marriage could be somebody getting beat down. Behind that job could be somebody being stressed out, or you know,
Absolutely.
behind that house could be somebody bankrupt. So I don't necessarily need that. Like what's behind, like I don't know, like I kind of want to know, like, how are you, like, girl, like I'm okay, I'm trying. That could be enough for me. I'm like, girl, we all trying, you know, like just
Yeah.
some real communication like that is enough for me. Now if you want to open up more, if I want to open up more, that's different, but keyword wants.
And it could also be the opposite. Like somebody could tell you that they lost their job, and automatically you might feel like, oh shoot, like it's the end of their world. But they could really be floating on cloud nine because they lost their job. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's an expectation. Like you're expecting somebody to just, I don't know, like, they lost their job and you're thinking that they're going through it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But that could have been the best thing that ever happened to them.
That,
So we just let go of what we are expecting people to say, or expecting how others should feel about a certain situation. Then I think things would go a lot more smoothly between people in general.
right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the expectations is just so huge. It's such a broad topic
So broad.
that it just hits on everything in our waking lives, like literally. And it's so broad that I feel like it happens when we don't even know it, like all the time. You know what I mean? I feel like our whole life is just based off of expectations.
Yes, because everyone has an expectation of someone.
Even it could be even something as little as I'm not even gonna lie, I get pissed if I hold the door open for somebody, they don't say thank you. Like that's an expectation.
Heck.
I'm I'm holding the door for you. I'm expecting you to say thank you. But you know what I mean? But like if I didn't expect that reaction from somebody, I would not get pissed.
Right.
That's on me.
It's crazy.
And everybody is not raised the same way. You know what I mean? Like maybe this person was not raised to say thank you when somebody opens the door for them. And I'm not saying that's bad or good. Like even manners is okay, never mind. I was about to go too deep on it. But
Go. If you want to go, go.
I was just gonna say, like, even manners is almost like a societal expectations, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's relative. Like, everybody has their own definition of what good manners and bad manners are, and like, even what is that? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, we all know, like, if some, not all the time, but most of the time, we know when somebody has good intentions or bad intentions, and I feel like that's just what it boils down to when it comes to semantics, and when it comes to like little pet peeves and stuff like that. That's ours. That's our own stuff that we are holding on to. You know what I mean? and we can't blame others because we have this pet peeve.
Mm.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I got 500,000 pet peeves I can name right now. But that's on me. Like that's my problem. And we really be getting pissed off at other people and like stop talking to people and stuff like that off of something that belongs to us.
Mm.
Our own expectations. Hashtag expectations.
Girl.
This subject is too much.
No, you girl. I'm happy you went in because the manners thing, like, I never thought about it like that. So thank you.
Expectation is the root of all heartache.
Oh. Did y'all hear that?
Expectation is the root of all heartache.
Title?
Absolutely.
And she said, remember what you told me earlier? I said, what should we title it? Remember?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're the best.
You're the best. I love you, girl. I was sitting here laughing at when you was like, no, I'm not going to go. That's too deep. I said, go. Girl, go. Like, you go.
Just put the whole battery in my back. I was like, all right, I'm going to go.
She better go off. Yo, this my girl.
Huh?
I said, you my girl.
You my girl. So listen.
Hey, I wish we could explain what you said when we were in Stamford, Connecticut, when we were outside and that lady walked by with her dog. Like, I wish that was recorded.
Wait, I don't remember
when
that.
When the lady walked by with her dog.
Oh, when we were by the movie theater.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, I guess I could tell them, but they're not gonna
get it. She's just overprotective of me in a good way that I love, because that's like kind of my love language. Well, it's well, how can I explain it? Like, I can't explain it, but she just know me. That's my love language.
All right, y'all. So what happened was we was just standing outside talking, chilling, or whatever. And this lady walked by with a dog. You know, she was walking her dog or whatever. But the dog got a little too close to MissKay. And MissKay does not like dogs. And just me knowing that in my second nature, like, I just rolled up real quick. Like, I put my arm around her, like, and I pushed her back a little bit. And I didn't even get my sentence out. I was just like, oh no, she don't know.
But like, you guys gotta picture this. Like, I don't really care for dogs. So as soon as I see the dog, I'm on alert. My mouth opens a little bit, like, and the lady's like, oh, she's nice. So my mouth opens a little bit to be like, But this girl, before I can even like part my lips 2 inches, an arm is in front of me. She's like, I'm like, yes. Like, that's love right there.
Yes.
It's a weird example, but I swear, like, that's our relationship. Like, she just gets me, she just loves me, and she just got my back, as you can see. So it's just, it's dope.
Hashtag sisterhood.
Sisterhood. This is my girl. I love her.
I love you too.
I know they're like, what? But
wait, what? No, listen, we're gonna have our moment. Y'all just gonna have to listen. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. So, question.
Yes.
Can you explain where expectations and love languages meet? Like, what does one have to do with the other, in your opinion?
That's a good one, because you know what? I feel like we did touch a little bit on this in love languages in that episode. And I feel like this is a really good episode to follow up with that one.
Right.
We are low-key geniuses. Okay. So I feel like love languages, I feel like expectation is kind of like how relationships start to devolve. Because, you know, in every situation or every relationship, whatever, even platonic, everything is all fun and games in the beginning. And then we say once you get to know a person, that's when things start to go down south or downhill. But I don't think that's the situation. I think it's when people don't meet our expectations that we've already set. And I think sometimes, you know, we may put somebody in a box, you know what I mean? Or we put a label on this person. And when somebody does something or says something that doesn't fit inside that box, um, it doesn't meet our expectations because we expected them to fit inside this box. You know what I mean? Like, so when they do something that's kind of out of character based off of the character that we put on top of on them, it's kind of like, oh, this is a bad person, or she's acting weird, or he's acting different. Um, and that's just the whole world is just like projection. Like, it's crazy. Just even our relationships with everybody is just based off of projection. Like, it's how we see things. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm going.
It does. It does.
I feel like I'm going really left though. Okay, so let me get back to love languages. Okay, so
it makes sense. Yeah.
So I feel like, okay, I said in love languages that we kind of expect to be loved the way that we want to be loved. And that's an expectation. So let's say, for example, my love language is quality time. Um, so somebody that I love, I'm expecting them to want to spend quality time with me. Um, and that's kind of where things kind of go left because that may not be their love language. You know, their love language might be words of affirmation. Um, and if that's something that we didn't talk about or, you know, we didn't have that conversation, then that's where things tend to go left because we might both be putting the same expectations on one another. Like if their love language is words of affirmation, they may be expecting that from me. And now we're both pouring into each other. We're both loving each other. I'm giving all the quality time in the world. They're giving all the words of affirmation in the world. But there's a disconnect because that's not how we want to receive love. What do you think?
That made perfect sense. You definitely tie both of them together. Keyword disconnect. That was a big one. I think it's really true. Like all support doesn't look the same. So all love doesn't look the same. And like it plays so heavy into our expectations and it's crazy. I agree with you on that.
Okay, so we've given the streets a few examples of expectations and how we put these expectations on ourselves, put expectations on other people, and how that can kind of be detrimental in our own lives. So I'm pretty sure there's a few people out there listening that's like, okay, so how do I not, or how do I learn how not to expect, you know? And I actually came across an article and it listed 5 things that can help us kind of like release these expectations. And I do want to read a quote before I start. The quote says, "When you release expectations, you are free to enjoy things for what they are instead of what you think they should be." All right. So going into how to release these expectations. First, do yourself what you expect from others. And that's basically just saying treat others how you want to be treated. And don't worry about how this person is going to react or how this person don't worry about the other person at all. Let's just put it that way. What you expect from other people, just do it and just worry about that. Worry about what you're doing and leave others out of it, out of the equation altogether. Okay, MissKay, what's the next one?
One is express gratitude. And what this one just means is like just be thankful. Like instead of, getting so caught up in like what you're expecting from this person or sometimes even what you're expecting from yourself, like just be mindful, just be grateful in the moment. Like sometimes it's okay to just wake up and just be thankful for what you have. You may not have everything that you want. You might not even have some of what you need, but sometimes you just need that moment just to thank God for what you have in the now. That's what I took from that one.
I agree with that. The next one is don't wish from people a return of your good deed, which is huge. Like, if you do something good for somebody, you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. And, excuse me, we shouldn't be expecting anything in return. And I think this also falls underneath the same kind of category as that If you're doing a good deed for somebody, I don't think it should be for show. I don't think you should be recording it or, have yourself in a video like, oh, I'm giving $1,000 to this person. Like, you know what I mean? You can do your deeds secretly, because even that is an expectation. Because when you do these things, when you're doing stuff on show, on stage like that, you're respecting a response. I mean, you're expecting a response. Or, you want people to say, oh my God, this is a good person or whatever. So, if you're doing a good deed, one, you shouldn't, expect anything back from that person because you're doing it out of kindness of your heart. But also, two, you shouldn't expect anything from a crowd by posting it or, doing it on Front Street.
Girl, that's just so true. And like, you totally just reminded me of a scripture. I'm gonna read it. I don't want to be like sounding like, too religious or anything. So if that's not your thing, you can fast forward the next few seconds, but I have to share it because it's so fitting. But here it goes. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you.
And I feel like, I'm sorry to go into on this again, but I feel like if doing good deeds and giving is something that you do just naturally, then you wouldn't even have that desire to pick up a phone or, you know what I mean, to like go and tell people, because that's just, it's part of who you are. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something that's natural to you. Like, you don't get up in the morning and tell everybody that you brush your teeth. Like, it's just something that you do. And also there's one part of this that says that then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. And that's another thing too. Like, you can't do these things just because you expect to receive a reward. Like, it just has to be something that is just solely based off of the kindness of your heart. Like, you cannot be expecting anything in return. And that includes being, we always talk about blessings. You know what I mean? We always talk about, oh, I want God to bless me, blah, blah, blah. And that's not always some people think of blessings as monetary or financial, you know what I mean? And sometimes the things that we may not think are blessings are blessings. So it goes back to what you were saying about being grateful. Like, we used this example earlier in the episode. We were talking about somebody losing their job. Like, we may not see that as a blessing, but it could very well be a blessing. And I kind of went off topic, but still.
No, it ties in.
I'm coming back to A. I went to E a little bit, but back to A. Just, when you do good things, just let it be purely good and let your intentions be good, and don't worry about, other people or expecting anything in return.
Intentions. And that even goes for like when you're like, say you're with your friend and you get the tab, or, let's say you do something like, I've always I expect this in my friendship, and I appreciate this in my friendship. Like, one hand wash the other. Like, I don't want someone doing something for me and then waiting for me to do it for them.
Right.
Like it to just be natural. Like, girl, I got you.
Yep.
Because you got me. And if you got me 20 times and I only got you 2 times, it's not like like, I'm waiting.
Yep.
Like, or, I don't like when people do that in relationships, friendships, family, or anything. Like, that's not love. And like this scripture kind of said, like, God sees that. So if you're doing stuff even for your friends or for the homeless or for whomever, and you're always just waiting for that praise or for it to come back, like you said, blessings, like, yeah, be mindful of that. Like, are you really doing it from your heart? Because if you're not, just don't do it. Like,
absolutely. I cannot stand when people take tabs. Like, it just drives me nuts. Oh, well, the last 2 times you did this, so I'm gonna do it 2 more times. Like,
that's a pet peeve.
For real. Like, that's just let it flow. Like, it doesn't have to be that serious. And I actually just thought of something. You know what? Let's go through this list and then I'll bring it up.
I love it. Please don't forget.
I'm gonna write it down.
Okay.
So the next one is inquire your expectation. And I feel like this is kind of a two-part. So the first part is asking yourself, before you ask this question, why am I asking this question? And that's something that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier in the episode. What are you desiring from the answer? Like, what are you expecting to get from the answer? And also the second part is, are you what you are expecting from this person, are you able to deliver? So basically you shouldn't be asking anything of anybody that you wouldn't be able to do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that one.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one.
Right?
Yeah. The last one is let life go on its way. And that's really true. It's just talking about like letting things just have a natural flow. And the article says, isn't it better to be surprised than to be disappointed? So we can take that on like almost all these examples. Like just let things flow. Like obviously you have to be intentional in your life and about your goals and everything that you want, but sometimes you can't have like such strict like expectations, and you'll just be full of resentment and disappointment, and you're not being mindful, you're not being grateful, you're expecting everything from every situation, every person, yourself. Like you gonna just be feeling so just
Drained.
uptight, rigid, and
Yes.
drained, and just like it's just too much. And we've all been there before. Like we're just like so resentful, so drained. Like we've all been there before. But like this article, it said, what is there for you will come to you with life's own natural flow. That's a part right there. That's a
That's a
word right
whole
there.
word.
I love it.
Yes. Okay.
This is a great article.
We are going to, when we post this episode, we're going to have the link available, so that you guys can go and check it out if you'd like. We pretty much talked about everything that was in the article, but if you want to have it for your own reference, then we'll put the link below our post. There's one last thing that I just wanted to add because I feel like it kind of ties into this a little bit. I was having a conversation with a friend because I posted something on my story on Instagram, and it said, never stop being a good person because of bad people. And this person I was talking to, they replied saying it's hard. And I feel like that kind of ties into expectations as well. When you're a good person, and you give and you give and you give. Not only when I say give, I don't mean like, physically, but I mean like you give yourself. And because you are this way, you are expecting others to be, the same way towards you. So for example, you're a good person, and you know what? Sorry, I'm going to be right now.
It's okay.
There's a lot of us that feel like our goodness is just gonna spread all over this bad person and gonna make them good. You know what I mean? Like we just have so much we have a well inside of us that is filled with goodness, and that we're just gonna pour it on this person, they're gonna become good. And that's just not the way life works. You know what I mean? Like, and you may come across 10 people that are bad, but it's up to you to one, stop expecting people to treat you the way that you treat them. Two, stop expecting people to change because you want them to. And three, just worry about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a good person and you're not, and you know that you're a good person, then that's all that matters. Keep doing the things that you're doing and just worry about that. Like, you can't expect anybody to change regardless. And even, nope, I'm not going to go there. So what do you think about that?
Wait, wasn't there something that you were going to say? And I said, remember that. Was that this?
Yes.
Okay. And remember that too, because I want you, whatever you're about to say, I want you to say it.
Okay.
My thoughts, I agree with it. It reminded me of the saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them, and just trying to change a person, and like you said, that well, and trying to pour it on them, like just having an expectation for like what you really want and think is there. So that's my thought on that. But what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say even the thought of good and bad is kind of just like subjective, I guess. And all that is based off of expectations. It's like literally it's like expectations can go so deep as an atom. Like it's just it's so everywhere that,
Right.
I consider this person bad because they do this, they do that, they say this, they say that.
Right.
And that's how we perceive it. That's our own perception of this person, And
And you know what's crazy? Like even like other countries, like they have different like societal norms. So what we do versus what somebody does in Europe, like the difference between good and bad, like it you can see it there too. Because let's say there you don't do I can't think of something right now, but I just know like different countries operate different. Shoot, different cities operate different. Like, and so that just goes to show like who are you in Alaska, or who are you in the United States, or who are you in, Tennessee or wherever, that the person here, oh, you're rude. Like you mentioned, like manners, that's certain expectations that we just have, like, you know, based on who we are, based on what we learn.
exactly.
Like for example, if someone was to sneeze and I didn't say God bless you, they could think, oh my gosh, she's so rude. But they don't, like it's just the little things. Like who says we have to follow that? I mean, it sounds weird because there are certain things like, I don't know, like holding the door, saying thank you, but it's just crazy because like society is just crazy. Like when you think about like just how it's set up.
Yes. And it's
Wrong.
so
Man,
it's so
like,
small. You know what I mean? Like when you think about everything that's going on in the world, like you really gonna take the time out to get mad over somebody not saying thank you.
right.
Like it's just such a tiny thing. And
It,
we all have those things. Like we all have those things that just like pisses us off, or is a pet peeve of ours. And I feel like we all just have to be more mindful that there's more important things going on in the world, or more positive things that we could focus on, rather than just like being tight at this person and say thank you.
Cause I'm not gonna lie, I'm that person. Like
Me
I'm about
too.
me. Like if you don't say thank you, like I'm like she could at least say thank you. Expectations.
I'm the
So I'm
person to
about
be
me
like, you're welcome, without them even saying
for real. So when I say that we say this stuff, we're not looking down like no, like I think manners do have a place in society, but we're just talking about like the idea of like the things that like we make up and we stick by and we judge by. I think manners do need this place because let's say you're at work and you're doing something that you didn't have to do. If your boss doesn't say thank you, Tanisha, for staying and doing XYZ, that's rude, says society. But you know what I mean? Like I don't want to live in a society, I've never lived in one, where we didn't hold these standards and we're so used to them that they're everywhere.
I mean, I feel like it's what civilizes us.
That part.
Because if there were no set standard, we would just be all running around like talking to each other.
Savage.
Well, that would just be the norm, I guess. I guess that would just be the norm.
Right.
Oh God, this world just confuses me.
It is. This episode was great.
MissKay.
Mm-hmm.
Confession.
Uh-oh.
All right, so before we even get into the confession, I feel like we just have a whole different type of way that we talk to each other. It's crazy. So, we know. First of all, I get nervous as hell if MissKay hits me up, and the first thing I see is confession, and then sometimes I'll just get like 5 voice memos like right after, and I'll be like, "Oh shoot!" Like eyes get all wide. I send the eyes emoji.
Oh my
So
God.
when we say the word confession, just know like something really real
Yeah.
is about to come after.
Facts.
So confession. So we wrote notes on this episode, and we were trying to think of examples of expectations, and we went through most of them. We went through careers, education, manners, family. But one of the things that we did write down is support. And that is very close to us, because we do have this podcast. And I'm going to speak for myself on this one. I feel like when we started this podcast, there were so many people that were close to me that I felt like were not being as supportive as I would like for them to be. as far as just a share. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I wasn't asking for a lot. Or I wasn't asking, well, in the beginning I was asking, but
Mhm.
you know, in my mind I felt like it wasn't a lot that I wanted or expected from these close people to me. Um, you know, I did want share. I wanted a like, I wanted a comment, I wanted feedback, a repost. And just I'm saying just one of these things out of this list. And when there was no response, um, it hurt my feelings. You know, it hurt my feelings, especially for people that I feel like if they're doing something or when they have done something, like I've been a cheerleader for them, you know. But that hashtag expectations, like,
Mhm.
you know, and that was a learning process for us as well because you know me and Miss K have never done this before. This is our first time having a podcast, so that was a learning lesson for us. And afterwards, we saw so many memes that said, you know, most of the support you're going to get is from people that you don't even know and stuff like that. But you know, now going into it, every time that we um drop an episode, we have a goal for ourselves as far as numbers, but we're not going into it thinking, okay, this person is going to share, this person is going to like, you know, and that was a lesson that we had to learn going through it. What do you think on that?
I'm not gonna lie, like it's still one that um I'm still working on like being okay with
Mm,
because there's so many times we would, and especially in the beginning, we would come to each other and just like vent real quick and be like expectations and then just move forward. Because when you start something, like it's your passion. Like if you're out here, you're baking, you know, cakes, pies, you're making food, you're selling a product or you're rapping, like if you're doing something that you're passionate about, it becomes your baby. Like
mm-hmm.
chapter is our, like we the baby mothers and it's the baby.
Right.
We always joke about it, but it really is. It's our blood, sweat, and tears, and it's our passion. And it's like, for us, it was like our aha moment. Like, oh my gosh! So we were skipping through the world excited, and like when we weren't seeing everybody clapping, it was hurtful
Mm,
because it takes a while for people, some people, to find their passion. And as she's mentioned, like we, especially when it's people that we've actually supported or would support, it was like, damn, like you don't got my back, like how I had yours. But that's expectations.
mm-hmm.
We already went down, you know, that line and how you can't really like expect people to do exactly what you have done or would do or love you how, you know, you would be you would love or you want to be loved,
Mm-hmm.
because some of these people, we call them the silent listeners, whether they're listening or not, they could be, you know, silently supporting us by listening, or they could be scrolling right past it. But I'm not gonna lie, it does hurt when you're really close to people. And like, I mean, y'all see how we flood the world with chapter 30, and like there were people that we're really close to that kind of just like they haven't even acknowledged it to us in person or via text. So it's just like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And these are people we're close to. But there's people that we're like that we don't even know, we've never met, that talk to us daily about chapter
Right.
30.
Yep.
And so it's
Yep.
just like, wow. So I totally agree. It is something I'm still trying to come to terms with. But T talks me down, and you know, when she has her moments, I talk to her as well because it, like she said, we've never been here before, so it's different. But it gives me a whole nother perspective for people that have been out here, you know, rapping and singing. People may look at them like, dang, can they stop posting on that CD? Can they stop
Mm-hmm.
doing this? That's their passion.
Yep.
And what's a share, what's a like, or even if you're not about that life, about sharing and posting, like there's a lot of people that don't do that, but they when I see them or when I talk to them, they're like, yo, you and your girl doing your thing, like I see y'all, like
Mm-hmm.
that means a lot. But hey, who am I to put my expectations on people on how I want to be loved, you
Mm.
know? Like still working on it, but we wanted to share that with you guys because that's a major expectation that we've had recently.
And I thank you so much for sharing that because we live in such a savage culture that sometimes, especially we're doing this to the audience, not just to each other, that sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to admit that your feelings have been hurt or, um, you know, somebody or you felt some type of way towards the situation. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
we're just this whole society is just, you know, you're meant to be a savage. You're meant to not feel anything, and you know, F
Right.
this person, F that person. So I think that's major that you express yourself in that way to the streets.
Right. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
You know, I'm quick to tell you when my feelings get hurt. Like I gotta say it and let it go, release it, and I try to move on. I do have a hard time with moving on from things, but I'm working on that. I'm working on me. But um it's a part of life, and I think it's okay to say I expected that from that person, but I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of gotta let it go. It may take some time, but in order for you to properly prosper how you need to, you gotta let that go. And like, hey, get the support from where you get it. And if nobody supports you, continue to support yourself,
Yep.
because somebody gonna, you know, somebody's going to take from what you're putting out. Like, it's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. So just keep doing it, and someone sees it. Like, I don't care if they're in China, like, I don't care who it is. Like, even if, I'm sorry, but even if your parents don't support you, even if your spouse doesn't support you, your best friend, like, if it's what you want to do and God put it on your heart, do it.
You said a whole word just now, Miss K, and I feel like you definitely just inspired somebody who's listening. Like, somebody who's listening to this episode and is going to hear that part and may have thought that, you know, this wasn't it for them, or, you know, have they thought about giving up. And the last few words, the last few sentences that you just said definitely just lit a fire under somebody. You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank
Thank you.
you.
I feel like you said a whole lot as well, that people are gonna take and build it and grow it, and, you know, think about, and that's all we want, right?
Yeah,
Like, just spark a thought, just show
absolutely.
you that we're here. Like, we still learning and growing. We are here.
We're here. We're here right along with y'all.
For real.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
Not at all. Well, streets, hopefully you took something from this episode. We can't wait to hear your feedback of what you thought. Miss K, do you have any last words for the streets before we go?
I just want to say thank you so much, Streets. Thank you for liking, sharing, reposting, listening. Just thank you for everything you do, everything you don't do. Like, just thank you. We love you so much. We really appreciate you guys. Like, if you guys want to share anything that you got from this episode, or that you wish we would have touched on, or other expectations, or just ways that you feel people can learn to deal with expectations from others, please let us know, because the conversation does not end here.
Mhm.
We love you guys so much.
Yes, ditto. Also, follow us on Instagram at the Chapter 30 Podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Snap at Chapter 30 Pod. Follow us on Facebook at QueenTK. Send us an email at the Chapter 30 Podcast at gmail.com.
Hey, yes, girl. And I shouted out my Instagram name. What's yours, Queen T?
Mine is at QueenTee2 Trill. That's
Hey,
Queen T2 Trill. TRILL.
yes.
All right, streets. We'll see you next time.
We out. Love you guys.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us.
And don't forget to follow all of our social media platforms linked below. And remember, peace, love, and perspective.